Warning, this video is going to have opinions about the Sonic franchise, both games and movies, so if you're a part of the Sonic fanbase and you don't like other fans' opinions on the franchise, then I'm afraid this video won't be for you. Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm reviewing, in my opinion, one of, if not the best, video game movies ever made. This video will contain spoilers later on, but if you want a non-spoiler review, I will cover that now, and I'll let you know when I'm about to start talking about the spoilers. Anyway, enough rambling, let's go. So to begin, as a whole, the movie follows the first film extremely well. It seems to me like they've had a plan for how they wanted this franchise to go, which is proven by the fact that if you remember in the first film, Sonic's guardian Longclaw was killed by the Echidna tribe, and in this film they reveal it was actually Knuckles' father who was the one who disabled her wing, forcing Sonic to go to Earth and leave her behind. That's not technically a spoiler, we already knew that it was the Echidna that attacked them, and neither Sonic or Knuckles acknowledge that, which kind of makes sense because neither of them would know that it was Knuckles' father who killed Longclaw. The human characters are alright. Tom and Maddie return, and for the first half of the film are kind of sidelined. They're at a wedding in Hawaii. But like in the first film, where I thought they'd be needless additions to the film, they actually serve quite a lot of purpose to the plot, mainly Tom, played again by James Marsden. He actually helps Sonic's character arc in this film by making him realize that he needs to use his power responsibly, and that there will come a time where his power will need to be used. Maddie, played again by Tika Sumpter on the other hand, once again doesn't really do a whole lot, but she's alright. She doesn't halt the plot in any way, so I'm not going to complain about her existence, unlike the most drawn out scene in the film, and if you've seen it then you already know what I'm referring to. There's a wedding scene between Maddie's sister Rachel and a man called Randall. When you watch the film and get to this scene, help yourself to a toilet break or a drink top up, because this long ass scene takes a good 8 to 10 minutes of the movie's main plot, and it doesn't really get mentioned again, and serves no real purpose to the rest of the film, other than to introduce one tiny little plot point which probably won't even really be important until Sonic 3, but we'll get to that later. There is another drawn-out dance scene in Siberia, which mainly serves to give Sonic and Tails a nice bonding moment, so I won't complain too much. Plus, Sonic does the iconic Sonic Adventure pose, which was cool to see, so again, I can't complain too much. Sonic, once again played perfectly by Ben Schwartz, is pretty much the same as he was in the first film, which makes sense. It's only been a few months time skip. He's in a better place in the start of this film than the last. He's no longer alone, but he still uses his speed irresponsibly. And his character arc in this film is perfect for Sonic, and I can't wait to see how they handle him in the third film. I was a bit worried about how they'd handle Tails' character, considering how he's been in the games for the last 15 years. He went from being a brilliant inventor to just a snivelling coward. But in this film, Tails is actually kind of useful. He helps the plot move forward quite a lot, and he starts off a bit cowardly, despite running Knuckles over in a police car to save Sonic, but it's Sonic's bravery that pushes him to keep going on this adventure to get the Master Emerald. Knuckles was easily the best part of this movie in my opinion. He's voiced by Idris Elba, and like with Tails, this movie brings his character back to his roots of being a badass brute, after the games kind of ruined him and just turned him into dumb comic relief. He's strong, loyal, honourable, and yes, he is a bit dumb. He doesn't really understand the concept of lying, and some of Sonic's jokes go over his head, but his strength and will to protect those that he cares for outweighs that. Dr. Robotnik, once again played by Jim Carrey, of course returns in this film, and he is actually a bit more villainous in this one. In the first film he just kind of wanted Sonic's power for his machines, but in this film he wants the Chaos Emerald's power for unlimited, almost omnipotent abilities in order to enslave the multiverse. He's definitely more threatening, but he can be a bit goofy sometimes. There's this kind of very long scene where he's like flossing. It only goes on for like 3 seconds, but it's 3 seconds too long. Jim Carrey plays it very well, which kind of saves his character, but when he needs to do serious, he does that well too. They also leave his character kind of open-ended in case Carrey does retire, which I hope he doesn't, at least just to finish this trilogy, especially as he loves the character and he wants to play Eggman in the fat suit. I kind of find it funny that Jim Carrey's acting career is going to have like a 7-odd year time gap between his last movie and Sonic 1, and then his final 3 movies he ever does is going to be the Sonic the Hedgehog trilogy. Anyway, I'm rambling a lot, so I'll just get to the end of the non-spoiler stuff. In terms of action, this film is miles better than the first, which wasn't exactly lacking in terms of action, but for the most part it was mostly just Sonic running from Eggman and pranking people in the pub, which kind of makes sense because both these movies are about Sonic growing up, and that's fine, but this film has some proper fighting. Sonic goes all out on Knuckles and vice versa quite a few times, and without spoiling too much, the final battle was actually kind of tense. The story, not spoiling anything, was outstanding. Like the action, miles better than the first film. I'm not afraid to admit that at one point I kind of shed a tear or two, but that's mainly just because I've loved the Sonic franchise since I was about 7, and they do some stuff that I've wanted to see on the big screen for years, so don't judge me too hard. All in all, if you like the first film, you'll love the sequel. Whether you like the games or not, whether you know much about the lore, Chaos Emeralds, hint hint hint, then you'll likely be very pleased with this film. As much as I love the first film, Sonic 2 delivers quite possibly the best Sonic the Hedgehog story we've seen in 11 years since Generations came out. I rate this film a solid 9.5 out of 10. Okay, so this is the part of the video where I will get into spoilers of this film. If by now you haven't seen it and don't want to hear any spoilers, feel free to come back and hear me nerd out after you've seen the film. So unless you don't really care for spoilers, now is your chance to turn off the video. Right, so let's start off with some lesser lore stuff. We get an introduction to the government-run organization known as GUN, a name which even the film kind of makes fun of, also known as the Guardian Units of Nations. They're not a major part of the film, but they are important for what they reveal in the mid-credit scene, which we'll get to in a minute. As far as I can remember about them, they mainly serve to protect Earth from major threats like the Eggman Empire and Black Doom, who we'll also talk about in a minute. Again, they're not a big part of this film, so we'll just move on to easily the best scene in the entire film. So to quickly recap, Tails and Knuckles have knocked the Master Emerald out of Eggman, and the Death Egg bot is running on auxiliary power. He's punched the truck that Tom, Maddie and Sonic were in, and the Master Emerald gets destroyed, so they've kind of lost all hope. Tom and Maddie tell Sonic that if he's gonna die, they're going with him because they're their family, and I actually kind of found that scene a bit emotional. I didn't cry or anything, I just thought it was a really nice scene. It's a very good kind of twist on the first film, making Sonic feel so isolated. But anyway, just as the Death Egg bot is about to crush them as Tails and Knuckles watch, thanks for just watching guys, very helpful, the 7 Chaos Emeralds light up and swirl around Sonic. The Death Egg's foot slams down and he believes he's finally won, but we cut to Tom and Maddie and they look up and lo and behold, who is stopping the Death Egg from crushing them but Super Sonic? So, because I've been a massive Sonic fan since I was about 7, I kind of knew that they were going to do this when the first trailer dropped because, well, they showed the Master Emerald in it. So I knew pretty much that he was going to go Supersonic. But yeah, it was really cool to see. He looked awesome. I wish he would have stayed in his super form a little bit longer. But other than that, I thought it was great. It was a great scene in the movie. The stakes were high. And yeah, afterwards he kind of just repels the emeralds and they kind of float up into space. Because I'm sure that they're never going to appear again, especially not with the biggest thing that they revealed, easily the most exciting thing in the film for me, the introduction of Shadow the Hedgehog. I cannot begin to tell you the amount of shock there was on my face. Let me recap the scene quickly. In the mid-credit scene, we see the aftermath of the final fight. Walters, who is now the commander of GUN, is being told that while they were looking at old files in Robotnik, they found an old file dating back 50 years. Let me just say that those words alone told me what was coming and I gasped so hard that the people around me turned to look at me. We see an old tank slowly rise out of the ground, revealing the Ultimate Lifeform himself, and Walters says, of course, Project Shadow. Shadow's eyes open, his eyes crackle with electricity, and it ends. I was left with my mouth wide open for at least 2 minutes afterwards. I was so excited because of how much this opens up for the next film. Shadow is easily my favourite Sonic character. His backstory is so interesting and dark for what is normally such a kid-friendly franchise. In case you don't know, Shadow was created by Robotnik's grandfather Gerald, who wanted to create a being powerful enough to harness the Chaos Emeralds, but the government shut this project down because it was deemed too dangerous, which also resulted in the death of Maria, Robotnik's granddaughter and Eggman's cousin, who was Shadow's only real friend and they pretty much grew up alongside each other. Her dying wish to Shadow was to do what he could to help humanity, so towards the end of Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow finally remembers this and chooses to redeem himself instead of trying to destroy the world to avenge her. Shadow forms an alliance with Sonic. They both use the power of the emeralds to go super to stop the biohazard from destroying the entire planet, but he uses too much power and energy and ends up sacrificing himself for the good of the entire planet, fulfilling his wish to Maria. He later comes back to life after Eggman saves him, so the sacrifice has a little less meaning, and he gets completely sidelined after his game flopped. However, he is one of the main playable characters in Sonic 06, and he is quite possibly the best character in that shithouse of a game. Quick fun fact though, those golden rings that you can see around Shadow's wrists and ankles are called inhibitor rings, which, as the name implies, inhibit Shadow from using his full power, because he is extremely dangerous. But when he takes them off, he is granted an immense boost in power and strength, though he runs the risk of overexerting himself. Anyway, I doubt they will do Shadow's full backstory, as, like I said earlier, is quite dark for a kid's film, and the whole Black Doom thing came from a universally hated Sonic game, so I doubt they'll do that. But either way, I'm really excited to see him in Sonic 3 and to see who they'll voice him. I've seen a ton of people saying Keanu Reeves, and honestly, that wouldn't be too bad a choice. And I'm not just saying that as a Keanu Reeves fanboy. I'm really excited for Sonic 3, and the reveal of Shadow just kind of heightens that hype. I'd love to see Eggman return, but I am interested to see if they'll put a different villain more in the spotlight. Obviously Shadow will start off as a villain and turn good at the end, and since we have more of the game lore coming into the films, I'd love to see characters like Metal Sonic, Rouge, Amy, Silver, very underrated character, Mephiles, underrated villain, and maybe even the Werehog in spin-off, Blaze, another one of my favourites, Chaos, one of the best villains in my opinion, and the Chaotix, minus Charmy, the annoying little and of course, fan favourite, one of the best characters in the entire franchise, Big the Cat. But I guess we'll just have to wait to find out. What would you like to see in Sonic 3? What did you think of Sonic 2? Did you like it or not? I'd love to know your opinions on the film, and if at any point you enjoyed this video, it would mean a lot if you could like and subscribe. It'll help me out big time, and if you change your mind, you can always unsubscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all the best.